Wait, isn't that Chidi's wife?
I thought she couldn't have children. How does she have twins?
You know, sometimes life has a funny way of teaching us our worth. Sometimes the person who tries to break you becomes the very reason you discover the warrior inside. My name is Adaeze, and this is the story of how I went from being the woman who gave everything to a man who valued nothing, to becoming the woman who walked into his traditional wedding with twins on my hip and fire in my eyes. Before we continue, please do me a favor, subscribe to this channel, like this video, and drop your state in the comments. I want to know where my ladies are watching from. Thank you so much. But let me start from the beginning, because every victory needs its proper foundation. I was 24 when I married Chidi, fresh from university, full of dreams, and naive enough to believe that love could change a man. That was my first mistake. I met Chidi at a church program in Enugu. He was tall, handsome, spoke good English, and had that Lagos confidence that made village girls like me feel special. When he knelt down to propose in front of my family compound, I thought God had finally answered my prayers. The red flag started early, but I ignored them. Chidi had a son, Emeka, from his previous relationship with a woman named Ngozi. She was just a mistake, he would say whenever I mentioned that Ngozi still called him constantly. You're my wife now, you're my future. I swallowed those bitter words like Agbo. I told myself that being a good wife meant accepting everything about my husband, including his past. I told myself that real love required sacrifice. What I didn't know was how much sacrifice he would demand and how little he would give in return. The second red flag was his obsession with having more children. Every month when my period came, Chidi made sure I knew whose fault it was. My seed is strong, Chidi would boast, pointing to Emeka's photo. I already have proof that everything works perfectly. So what's your problem? Those words became my nightmare. Every family gathering, every visit to his mother's house, every traditional ceremony became another opportunity for them to question my womb. His mother would look at me with pity and disgust, asking when I would do my duty as a wife. Month after month, I took the tests. Month after month, nothing. And Chidi made sure everyone knew he blamed me. He would tell his friends, his family, even strangers that his wife was the problem. That word followed me everywhere. I went to the hospital alone. Month after month, appointment after appointment, test after test. I let them examine me, probe me, ask me embarrassing questions. I drank their bitter medications and followed their instructions religiously. And you know what the doctors told me? There was absolutely nothing wrong with me. My womb was healthy, my eggs were perfect, my tubes were clear. Everything worked exactly as it should. I was completely 100% fertile and capable of having children. When I brought the results home, practically dancing with relief and hope, Chidi barely looked up from his phone. He was probably texting Ngozi again. That's good, he mumbled, his fingers moving across the screen. Chidi, this means we should both get tested. Maybe the issue is... There's no issue with me, he snapped, finally looking at me with cold eyes. I have a son calling me daddy. Don't start this nonsense. The physical abuse was subtle at first. Chidi never beat me. He was too smart for that. But he had other ways of hurting me. His fingers would dig into my arm when he was angry. His grip on my wrist would leave marks that I had to hide. He knew exactly how to hurt me without leaving obvious evidence. But the emotional abuse was worse. Chidi was an artist when it came to destroying my self-esteem. He knew exactly which words would cut deepest, how to make me feel worthless, how to convince me that I was lucky he had married me at all. You're lucky I'm still here, he would say during arguments. Most men would have divorced a barren woman by now. Maybe if you spent less time complaining and more time figuring out what's wrong with you, we would have children. Then came the comparison that killed me every time. Ngozi never had problems getting pregnant. She gave me Emeka without any wahala. Maybe the problem isn't men. Maybe the problem is you. 6 years. 6 years of this torture. 6 years of believing his lies, accepting his cruelty, and thinking this was what marriage looked like. 6 years of watching him text his ex-girlfriend openly, of pretending not to notice when he disappeared for hours with no explanation. 6 years of giving him everything, my love, my dignity, my respect, and eventually my money. The money issue started when Chidi's business began struggling. He had been working as a building contractor, but jobs were slowing down. We fell behind on rent, behind on everything. I watched him become more frustrated, more angry, and that anger always found its way back to me. I had been saving money secretly. My job as a teacher didn't pay much, but I was careful. I saved every extra naira, denied myself small pleasures, and over the years, I had managed to save 2.5 million naira. It was supposed to be our future. Money for land someday, or maybe for fertility treatment if needed. But Chidi found out about it on a Tuesday afternoon. 2.5 million naira, he repeated, staring at me like he had just discovered a treasure. I was saving it for us, I said quickly, seeing the hunger in his eyes. For our future. Our future is now, Chidi interrupted. I have an opportunity, Adaeze, a real opportunity. My friend Obi is expanding his importation business. He needs a partner. This could change everything for us. I should have said no. Every instinct in my body screamed no. But Chidi was looking at me with something that resembled love for the first time in months. He was talking to me like a partner instead of a burden. How much does he need? I heard myself asking. All of it. The full 2.5 million naira. I know it's a lot, but think about it. Once the business takes off, we'll make that money back 10 times over. And maybe, he moved closer, his hands gentle on my face, maybe when I'm not stressed about money anymore, we can really focus on starting our family. Those words were like medicine to my broken heart. That night, I withdrew every naira from my account and gave it to him. And Chidi held me close, whispering sweet promises about our future. I recorded him that night. I don't know why. Maybe instinct told me to protect myself. Whatever the reason, I'm grateful for that recording now. The importation business did take off. Within 6 months, Chidi was making more money than he had ever made in his life. He was bringing in hundreds of thousand naira every month, walking around with his chest puffed out like a big man. But success didn't make him treat me better. It made him worse. Now he had money and confidence, and suddenly I wasn't good enough anymore. He started staying out late, wearing expensive clothes I didn't buy, smelling like perfumes I didn't recognize. The text messages with Ngozi became phone calls. The phone calls became visits to check on his son. The visits became overnight stays because Emeka had this event or that program. Meanwhile, I was still teaching, still struggling to buy food, while Chidi spent thousands on designer shoes and expensive outings that I wasn't invited to. I was sleeping alone in our bed while he claimed to be handling business. The end came on a Thursday evening. I came home early from school, carrying groceries to make Chidi's favorite soup, ofe nsala. I wanted to surprise him. Instead, I got the surprise of my life. I heard voices as I approached our front door. Chidi's voice and another voice I recognized immediately, Ngozi. They were in my living room, laughing like old friends. I stood frozen on my own doorstep, listening. "She's so pathetic," Ngozi was saying, her voice full of mockery, "still pretending you to have a real marriage." "I can't keep doing this," Chidi replied, and my heart stopped. "I'm making good money now. I don't need her anymore." "So divorce her then," Ngozi said simply. "It's not that simple. She might come for the business. Technically, she helped me get started." "How much did she really help?" Ngozi sounded impressed. 2.5 million naira, Chidi laughed, and the sound cut through me like a blade. 2.5 million naira she gave me, cleaned out her entire savings account. "And you just took it?" Ngozi said. "Took it and ran with it. That woman is so desperate for me to love her, she would probably give me her kidney if I asked nicely." They both laughed at my desperation, my love, my sacrifice. I backed away slowly, sat in my car, and cried for 2 hours straight. When I finally went inside, Chidi was alone, sitting on the couch watching television. "Hey babe," he said casually, "what's for dinner?" I wanted to scream, to throw things, to demand answers, but I was so broken, so tired. I just went to the kitchen and started cooking. 3 days later, he asked for a divorce. He didn't sit me down like an adult. He just threw papers on the dining table while I was washing dishes. "Sign these," he said simply. "What are they?" I asked, though I already knew. "Divorce papers. I want out, Adaeze. This isn't working." "What isn't working?" I asked, turning to face him with wet hands. He shrugged like we were discussing the weather. "All of it. We don't have children, we barely talk anymore, and honestly, I don't love you anymore." 6 years of marriage ended with papers on a table and a shrug. "Chidi, we can work on this," I begged. "We can go for counseling." "No," he interrupted, walking toward the door. "I'm done. Just sign the papers and make this easy." "What about the business, the money I gave you?" He paused at the door, and for a second I thought I saw guilt, but it vanished quickly. "That was a gift. You can't take back a gift." Within a month, Ngozi and Emeka moved into our house. Within 2 months, the divorce was final. Within 3 months, I was packing everything I owned in my old Corolla and driving back to my village in Anambra, back to live with my mother. I had nothing. No money, no house, no husband, no children. At 30 years old, I was starting completely over. Mama was sick when I arrived. She had been hiding it from me. High blood pressure and diabetes. The doctor said she needed better food, less stress, proper medication. But how could she afford that when she was barely surviving on her small trading? She used to own a restaurant years ago. Nothing fancy, just a small buka where workers came for affordable meals. But when she got sick, she couldn't manage it anymore. The place had been closed for 2 years when I came home. "I'm sorry you have to see me like this," Mama said on my first night home, tears in her eyes. "Mama, don't apologize," I told her, holding her hands. "I should have been here helping you instead of chasing a man who didn't want me." "Don't blame yourself for loving someone," she said firmly. "That's not weakness, Adaeze. That's strength. Your ability to love completely, even when it hurts, that's a gift. Don't let him take that from you." But it felt like he had taken everything. I was broken, empty, a shell. I couldn't sleep, barely ate, spent days staring at the ceiling, wondering where I went wrong. That's when I first noticed him, Obiora. He was tall, gentle-looking, with kind eyes and a camera always around his neck. He was a photographer documenting rural development in our area, and he kept asking permission to photograph Mama's old restaurant. "There's something beautiful about this place," he said one day. "I can see the love that built it." Mama liked him immediately and invited him for tea. They would talk for hours about the restaurant's glory days, about the community it had served. I mostly hid in my room during his visits. I wasn't ready to face people, wasn't ready to pretend I was okay. But Obiora was persistent in the gentlest way. "You don't have to talk," he said one day, finding me on the back porch. "But can I just sit here? Sometimes company helps." And he sat. Not talking, not pushing, just being there. It was the first time in months I could breathe properly. It took 3 months before I told him my story. 3 months of him showing up consistently, bringing fruits for Mama, fixing small things around the house, treating us with kindness I had forgotten existed. When I finally told him about Chidi, about the marriage and the money and how it ended, I expected pity. Instead, Obiora got angry. Not at me, but for me. "That man is a fool, and someday he'll realize what he lost." "I gave him everything," I whispered. "Everything, and it wasn't enough." "It wasn't about you not being enough," Obiora said gently. "It was about him not being man enough to recognize your value." Slowly, I started to rebuild. Not just my life, but myself. I started seeing a counselor at the local church. I helped Mama with her medications and doctor visits. And I started looking at that old restaurant with new eyes. The structure was solid, just tired. The kitchen equipment was old but functional. And I started to have an idea. What if we didn't reopen as a traditional buka? What if we created something different, something that fit modern needs? I started researching. I spent hours at the cyber cafe learning about healthy eating, meal prep services, small business management. The idea was simple. Healthy, affordable Nigerian meals for busy people. Fresh vegetables, lean proteins, proper portions. Food that nourished bodies, not just filled stomachs. But ideas don't pay bills. I didn't have money to turn vision into reality. So I started small. I got a job at a provision store, working morning shifts. It wasn't prestigious, but every naira brought me closer to my goal. In the evenings, I experimented in Mama's kitchen, trying recipes, testing combinations, learning about nutrition. Mama became my taste tester and biggest encourager. "This is it, Noami," she said one night after trying my vegetable coconut rice. "This will change everything." I wanted to believe her, but I was scared. Scared of failing again, of losing what little I had saved. That's when Obiora made his offer. "Let me help you," he said one evening. "I'm already documenting changes in this community. Let me document your journey too." "Obiora, I can't pay you," I protested. "I'm not asking for payment. I'm asking to be part of something meaningful. I believe in what you are doing, Adaeze. I believe in you." That might have been when I started falling in love with him, though I was too scared and broken to recognize it then. The way he showed up every day, the way he saw potential when I couldn't see. He started filming everything. My early morning trips to the market, my late night cooking sessions, my small victories and failures. He never made me perform for the camera. He just documented the truth. It took 2 years to save enough to renovate the restaurant. 2 years of double shifts, of eating gari and groundnut when money was tight, of saying no to every unnecessary expense. 2 years of Obiora asking me out and me saying I wasn't ready. "I'm not going anywhere," he would say each time I turned him down. "I'll be here when you're ready." And he was. Through every setback, every moment of doubt, Obiora was there with his camera and his quiet faith in my vision. The renovation was slow. I couldn't afford contractors, so I learned to do things myself. YouTube became my teacher. I learned to paint, to tile, to fix things. Obiora helped when he could, and slowly, the tired old restaurant transformed into something bright and welcoming. I called it Udo's Kitchen, after my mother, because she taught me that food should nourish the soul, not just the stomach. The logo was simple, a cooking pot with a heart, representing the love in every meal. We opened on a Tuesday morning. I was terrified nobody would come, that all this work was for nothing. But by noon, we had a line outside the door. People loved what we offered. Healthy Nigerian food that didn't cost a fortune. Nutritious meals that were convenient but not processed. Real food with real value. But success didn't happen overnight. The first year, I barely broke even. I worked 18-hour days, doing everything myself, from cooking to serving to bookkeeping. Some nights I collapsed into bed without even removing my clothes. Obiora kept filming everything, not just the pretty moments, but the real ones. Me crying over a broken stove at midnight, me celebrating our first 50,000 naira day, me slowly learning to smile again, to believe in myself again. "You should post these videos," he kept saying. "People need to see this story." But I wasn't ready. I was still protecting myself, still afraid of Chidi or people from my old life seeing me struggle. "What if it doesn't work?" I asked one night. "Then we'll figure something else out," Obiora said simply. "But Adaeze, what if it does work? What if this is exactly what you're meant to do?" By the end of year 2, I knew he was right. Udo's Kitchen wasn't just working, it was thriving. We had regular customers, families who planned their weekly meals around our menu. I hired 3 employees and was looking to expand our hours. More importantly, I was thriving. The broken woman who left Enugu was gone, replaced by someone stronger, more confident, more sure of her worth. I was still cautious about love, still protecting my heart, but no longer afraid of my shadow. That's when I finally said yes to Obiora. It was a Friday evening. We were closing up together like we had done hundreds of times. But something felt different that night. Maybe it was how the sunset lit up our little restaurant, or maybe it was just that I finally felt whole again. "Obiora," I said as he packed his camera, "ask me again." He looked up, understanding dawning in his eyes. "Adaeze Udochukwu," he said, walking over to where I stood. "Would you like to have dinner with me?" "Yes," I said, and it felt like the first honest word I had spoken in years. I would love to. Our first date was at a Chinese restaurant in town. Nothing fancy, just good food and easy conversation. But it felt like coming home in a way my marriage to Chidi never had. Obiora listened when I talked. He laughed at my jokes. He asked about my dreams for the restaurant. I have a confession, he said over dessert. I've been in love with you for 2 years. My heart should have raced. I should have been scared. Instead, I felt peace. I know, I said, and I think I'm ready to love you back. We took things slow. Obiora had seen me at my lowest and understood I needed to trust at my own pace. But our foundation was solid in ways my first marriage never was, built on friendship, mutual respect, shared values, genuine affection. 6 months after our first date, Obiora proposed. Not with drama or grand gestures, but quietly on a Sunday morning as we prepped vegetables for the week. Marry me, he said simply. Okay, I said just as simply, yes. We got married at the local registry with Mama and Obiora's parents as witnesses. I wore a simple white dress from the market and carried flowers from our garden. It was nothing like my first wedding with its elaborate ceremony and hundreds of guests. But it was perfect because it was real. 3 months after our wedding, 2 incredible things happened almost simultaneously. First, Obiora convinced me to let him post some of his videos. I was nervous but trusted his judgment. The first video was simple. Me explaining my philosophy behind Udo's kitchen, talking about how food should nourish body and soul. That video got 10,000 views in the first week, then 50,000, then 200,000. People were sharing it, commenting, asking where they could find our food. Food bloggers reached out. Local TV stations wanted features. Orders started pouring in from across Nigeria. We went from serving a few hundred people weekly to shipping meal packages nationwide. The second incredible thing happened 2 weeks after that first video went viral. I was working late one night, trying to keep up with orders, when I started feeling dizzy. At first, I thought it was exhaustion, but when the nausea hit, I knew. I took 3 pregnancy tests that night, all positive. When I told Obiora the next morning, he cried. Happy tears, pure joy at starting a family together. But I was scared. After years of Chidi blaming me, after being told repeatedly that I was the problem, pregnancy felt too good to be true. What if something goes wrong? I whispered at the doctor's office. Then we handle it together, Obiora said, squeezing my hand. But Adaeze, what if everything goes right? Everything did go right. At 8 weeks, the ultrasound showed not 1 heartbeat, but 2. Twins. 2 healthy babies growing inside me. I thought about Chidi in that moment, about all the times he blamed me for our childlessness. The irony wasn't lost on me. With the right partner, with a man who truly loved me, my body had created 2 lives. Twins, Obiora said wonderingly, staring at the screen with tears streaming down. We're having twins. For the next 2 years, we lived quietly but abundantly. The business continued growing with Udo's kitchen products now in supermarkets across Nigeria. We bought a beautiful house with space for the children to play. We bought Mama a house too, ensuring she had everything she needed. But we kept our personal lives private. The videos Obiora posted never showed our faces clearly, never revealed personal details. As far as the world knew, Udo's Kitchen was just a successful brand built by someone who valued privacy. I thought about Chidi sometimes, wondered how he was doing, but those thoughts didn't hurt anymore. They were just mild curiosities. I had deleted everything from my old life. New phone number, new social media, new everything. As far as Chidi knew, I had disappeared. Until that Sunday afternoon when Mama's phone rang during family dinner. We were all together. Me, Obiora, the twins, and Mama. The twins were 2 years old now, running around with endless energy. It was perfect, peaceful, exactly the life I had dreamed of. Then Mama answered that unknown number. I watched her face change as she listened. Her eyes found mine across the room, and I saw something that made my stomach drop. Hold on, Mama said, into the phone. Then, covering it with her hand, she looked at me. Adaeze, you need to hear this. Who is it, Mama? Her jaw tightened. It's Chidi. The world tilted. I hadn't heard that name spoken aloud in years. Hang up, Mama, I said quickly. But she uncovered the phone. I'm going to hear what this fool wants. I could hear Chidi's voice through the receiver, that familiar, smooth tone that once made my heart race and later made my stomach turn. Mama's face grew darker as she listened. "Mm-hmm," she said. "I see. And you're calling here because—" More talking from Chidi's end. "Well," Mama said, her voice dripping with the kind of polite venom only Nigerian mothers have mastered. "Isn't that wonderful for you?" Finally, she hung up. She looked at me for a long moment. "What did he want?" I asked, though a part of me didn't want to know. "He's getting married to Ngozi," Mama said simply, "and he wants to invite you to their traditional wedding." The absurdity hit me like a slap. He wants to invite me to his wedding? "Oh, it gets better," Mama said, her voice sharp. "He specifically wanted me to tell you that you are welcome to come celebrate, since you helped him get started in life, and he wants to show his appreciation." The mockery was unmistakable. This wasn't an invitation, it was a setup. Chidi wanted me at his wedding to parade his success in front of me, to rub my face in the family he created with another woman, to show everyone the woman he had discarded. He thought I was still that broken woman who left Enugu with nothing. He thought I would show up disseparate and defeated, a cautionary tale to make his new bride feel better. The audacity, I whispered. "Question is," Mama said, "what are you going to do about it?" My first instinct was to ignore it completely, to continue living my peaceful life. But there was something about the calculated cruelty of that invitation that lit a fire in me, the assumption that I was still small enough to be intimidated by his success. Obiora came back downstairs after putting the twins to bed. "Everything okay?" he asked. I told him about the call, about Chidi's wedding invitation and what it really meant. I watched his face darken as he understood the level of disrespect. "He thinks he's going to humiliate you," Obiora said quietly. "I have no idea who I am now," I replied. "No idea what I have built, what I have become." "So what do you want to do?" Obiora asked. I thought about the woman who gave Chidi everything and received nothing. I thought about the woman who rebuilt herself from scratch, who created something beautiful and meaningful and successful. I thought about my twins upstairs, sleeping peacefully, in beds I bought, with money I earned, in a house that represented everything I never had with Chidi. "I want to go," I said finally, not to prove anything to Chidi, but to close that chapter properly, to show him and myself how far I've come. "Okay," Obiora said simply, "then we go, all of us." The idea of bringing my twins to Chidi's traditional wedding felt poetic. These two beautiful children he insisted I could never have, walking into his celebration as living proof of everything he was wrong about. I looked at my husband, this man who had loved me back to life, who believed in me when I didn't believe in myself. "Let's show them," I said, "what real success looks like." And we began to plan. Now tell me, what would you have done if you were in my shoes? Would you ignore the invitation, or would you go and face your past? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. Before you go, please subscribe to this channel, like this video, and share it with your friends and family. We post inspirational Nigerian stories every single day, so make sure to check out our other videos too. Don't forget to comment your thoughts. We'll see you in the next story. Stay blessed.